Right, we're just going to go meet up with Paula. This is her whānau's property. Danny and Marilyn are her mum. There's Shane. Kia ora. There's our pretty boy TJ. And look, there's my daughters and my mokos, my grandsons. 3 generations here today. They're digging out this pathway that all got covered in this river of silt. It's going to look beautiful when we're finished. You're doing good. Do you want to say hi, everyone? It's Lockie, Dixie, Chloe, Juicy. Doing great, Mahi. And here's our Paula. Hi.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good. Much better now you're here.
We're so happy to be here. We love digging in. So, how long have you lived here?
My parents have been here since, 46, 47 years. And I grew up here. And I came back here about a year ago. And I've been here ever since. Yeah, so I was here when it all happened, thankfully.
Thankfully you're here for your parents. It's pretty scary, eh? Being on your own and elderly when this stuff goes down.
Yep.
And have you had a day off yet since digging in?
No. It's 10 weeks on Tuesday.
Yeah.
10 weeks of Groundhog Day, really.
Yeah. Salt over and over and over again.
Yep.
You guys are incredible.
Everything. Yeah.
Really sorry that happened to you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, I can see your dad over there in the distance.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, he's an injured man, but he's still walking around and digging in.
Determined.
He's determined. A bit like you, I think, eh? Runs in the family.
Oh, yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, all hard workers out here. Okay, so I'd come out here to visit the other week with Paula, and she took me down to another part of their property and where they grow lots of crops. Well, that was their family home over there. That was built in what?
1981.
1981.
And hopefully will be rebuilt. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. It's just insurance, saying going through the motions.
And the silt.
The silt.
Under the house is the problem.
Okay. Right. Should we go for a drive?
Yes,
Let's go. Come on, everyone. I'm taking you with us. You sort of get used to muddy gumboots, so
Yeah.
sort of.
I did try to keep my ute clean. Mission impossible.
It is so impossible.
I gave up. Yeah, I tried. I tell you, my girlfriend was doing up her house and she had this like big roll of sellotape. And she said, "What do you reckon we cover your car seats in it?" And I went, "Wow, let's try." So on the floor, under my mats, I have sellotaped like my carpet to try and stop it getting disgusting.
Oh yeah, I can see with sellotape there under the mat.
Yeah, because the silt gets into everything. It's just every day is just your duty. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at this, people. Look out there. We're driving and you can just see a huge big mound of silt. This is really common, by the way.
Yeah, that's all out of the apples.
That's out of your apples.
So apples in there. So we've got about 35 hectares of apples just from where we came from. And then this is all ours up here. The day after when we walked out, this road was... Seatbelt on, it's going to keep beeping at you. Silt and forestry slash and just wood everywhere.
Sorry, people. Right, we're ready.
Yeah. So, yeah, it just looked like a disaster zone, I guess. Terrible. This in here is what was our vineyard.
Oh, the vineyards.
So we have no idea what to do with that. So it's all buried in silt and there's wire everywhere and there's bins that don't belong to us. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't belong to us. There's forestry debris, there's river debris, there's, I don't know, yeah.
Look
All
at it
sorts.
all.
All sorts, and we've been asked to separate it, and we have no idea how to separate it.
Separate the wood and the wire from the salt.
Yes, and the netting,
And
and
the
it's all
netting.
buried in salt. So this house here, our R.O.S workers swam from here to us. This has all been scraped out now, all the silt has, but it was, if we'll just jump out for a second and I'll show you how high it was. If you come over to this little studio here.
Okay.
So there used to be a fence here, and you could see this much of the fence left. This was all silt, and this will give you an idea of how high it was. That was where our R.O.S workers used to stay.
Oh wow, look at that, people. It's just like a huge hill of salt.
Yep, and so there's it's been empty, trying to clear that out now. This is 9 weeks later. We've been told that they want to reinstate the house, but we've had it sitting in silt for 9 weeks. So
That is a concern. I'm like,
yeah, I mean you can see underneath that the silt is right up to the floorboards. You know, so it's had right up to the floorboards, so everything's rotting from underneath, and then it's had a layer of sludge sitting in that house about that deep for 9 weeks.
9 weeks. And then you're not longer got the go ahead that you can clear it out.
And I'll show you.
Well, that makes sense, doesn't it?
Here, and this is.
I'm being sarcastic, by the way.
One of the I don't know how much is in here. Yeah, up to the beds.
Oh wow.
So we have to dig this all out.
Okay. We can help. Look at this.
Yeah, it's just, you know, I mean, these were people's lives, their possessions, their things.
Their homes and their shelters.
Yeah. So if I take you up here,
Oh,
we'll
look at the bike.
the stop bank,
Oh,
and this is what's interesting.
okay.
This. So this is where there is another hole that they did not find, and we nearly lost all our apples, which is through here if it wasn't for that shelter belt.
Is this the hole just up here?
Yep.
Okay.
So this is usually what we've found is how the stop banks have broken, is that there is a tree planted reasonably close to the stop bank, the wood catches on it, it spins and it digs a massive hole and bursts through the stop bank. So this one the council have not found yet, we've had to tell them, and there are 2 more further down.
You can see the big long trunks or limbs of these trees that are attached to that tree, and so they'll just be spinning around in circles.
Yeah.
And that's what
Everything
makes
catches
this.
and it just digs away. So we are super lucky we had that shelter belt, or we would have lost the apples as well.
Okay, let's go have a look at this. Oops.
Ooh, don't fall in.
So this is a big sinkhole.
Oh, it's just yeah, this was the stop bank. I mean, look how big it is.
Wow.
It's and then it went there, and it went all down the side of the stop bank, and has dug into the stop bank more, and nearly breached it again. But if that wasn't there, we would have lost all our apples as well.
Thank God for the shelter belt.
Yep.
Well, look at that, people. So this is one that they haven't found, but there's a few others at the top that have been filled in.
Much bigger ones further up.
Okay. So this actually really comes from those trees.
Seems to be the common denominator. Trees close to the stop bank.
Okay.
Right, we'll go for a scoot down to that kiwi fruit.
That was the kiwi fruit.
Yeah.
Oh, in your vineyard. With that wine.
Yeah, wine is now vintage.
So if anyone's thinking about coming in and digging in, if you haven't yet, or if you just want to come back and do some, just hit us up. We've got some mahi there that you can do. Look at this all. Okay, but look at that. Look at that slash. It just builds of it. A vineyard of it.
Yeah, everywhere the stop bank broke along, there's a massive amount of wood has come in, and it has just wiped everything out in its path. It's just been so strong, and some of the stuff is just massive. It's just wiped out everything.
I mean, and where do you even begin to start to clear that up?
Well, we have to wait for some help because we're orchardists. We don't have machinery that's big enough to pick it up. We just don't. Plus, we lost everything in the flood. We had one tractor left. We lost every piece of machinery that we had. So, so we're waiting for insurance and all sorts of things to come through to replace what we had. And we're still 9 weeks on, still working through the process. So we've had to go out and get stuff ourselves because otherwise it's not going to happen. And look at that.
How long have you had the vineyard?
Not as long as the rest of the property. Mum and Dad probably, not sure how many years ago they purchased that.
There's so much work that goes into a vineyard and all the horticulture here. I mean, look at all this.
So this is the start of our kiwi fruit we're looking at now.
Okay.
And the rest of the grapes. So that's on the too hard to do list at the moment. And so is this.
Okay.
So this looks a lot better than it did because we have had some kind people come in and take away the massive amount of logs of debris that were at the start of this.
Oh, look at that over there.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the size of that.
So that's some that have been collected from here.
There's just a few from your property.
Yeah.
God, it's like you're dealing with Goliath.
Yeah. And in here are this side are our plums, and they look like something out of a spooky enchanted forest. They just were covered. The silt for them was way up where there's a little bit left in the middle. That's how high the water was here.
Well,
Up in there's like some left up there, and we've just had to use hose and all sorts of stuff in your hands and that to get it off, or else nothing will fruit next year. So, and now behind them is just again, there was a shelter belt, and it is just full of wood, big logs, massive logs. But this is the real heartbreaker. It was 10 hectares of kiwi fruit. How do you recover from that?
look at it. This is total carnage.
Yep. Yep. And all along that shelter belt over the far side is just slash everywhere. And there's wires mixed in, there's netting. We've had some people come and help us take down the netting as much as we can. And we can't take it to their refuge place just over there because they tell us we have to cut it into 2 metre lengths. We've taken down nearly 8 hectares of netting how on earth are we supposed to cut it into 2-metre lengths?
Okay, did you hear that, people? So that's another crazy thing from the council, which is a bit of a mindfuck. Why? I mean, hectares and hectares of netting. I mean, that's enough work and hard work having to pull it down, and then they're supposed to sit there and cut it into 2-metre squares. Bizarre.
Look at some of that. So this is the rubbish that's in our plums. We have to now, so we've been through and taken everything out of the trees by hand, but we have to go through somehow and get all this stuff out from in between the rows, and it's all just wood slash. And there's stuff like that thing there. See how massive that piece
let
of
me
wood
go and
is?
have a look at that.
There's half a dozen like that in here.
Okay. So these are the plums, and some beautiful people have come through over the weekends and weeks and helped hand pick everything out of these trees, these plum trees. Look at this. This is just crazy.
There's about 6 of those. I don't know how I'm supposed to get them out. I mean,
Yeah, Paula, could you please pick out these huge big mammoth rings of wood?
yeah. If we walk down there, you can have a look at all the back of the because there was a breach just further up, and it all came in the back of these plums, and there's just massive debris everywhere. We've got a piano.
You have a piano?
Yeah.
Can you show it to us?
And
What is it?
chicken coops.
But you didn't have chickens.
No. Life jackets from people's boats. All sorts of stuff. I mean, stuff is just it's crazy. I mean, look, you know, how are we supposed to fix this?
God, it's just so overwhelming. Look at this. This is just like a big bale.
Yep. So I think if you can,
And you're supposed to hand sort this. And you're not allowed to light a fire, eh? You're not allowed to burn it all off?
not allowed to burn it. I mean, how are we supposed to? I've had to go along and we cut all the irrigation pipes because they're all buried in there somewhere. Otherwise, when we get some help to get this all dragged away, they're going to yank all that as well, and we'll lose those. So there's a huge amount of labour. It's people power in here. Can't get machines in. It's just been, I've had lovely volunteers come and help me. We worked out we've got about 2,100 trees here, less what was squished. And yeah, 1,200 hours of work to get them cleared, and we've done it. It's just fantastic.
You guys are amazing. And the community is amazing.
Yeah.
All these people that have come in and chipped in.
But no, I don't think people have seen this. How badly, you know, lots of people have been hit by silt, and we've been hit by
All of the above.
silt and slash and, you know, everything.
Thank you.
Oh,
Oops,
sorry.
all good.
God.
I've hardened up over the last 9 weeks. Oh, look, there's an onion.
Yeah, there's plenty of onions. Yep.
Where did those come from?
Somewhere up Dartmoor.
Dartmoor?
Yeah. So the water went, so you can see where it went through here. So it came round there and it took out all that shelter belt, and then went down there like a tsunami.
And you were home with your son
Home with
and
my-
your
yep,
mum and
son,
dad?
daughter, and my mum and dad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But we didn't see the extent of this damage because we couldn't get up here. This was just too wet until about 3 weeks ago.
It's like wading through quicksand. If you guys haven't walked through silk before, it's like quicksand. Wow, so the height of the water, because it's made that massive big hole in that shelter built, eh?
Yep. Those the neighbours have been clearing up that part. This is all the back of the plum.
I'm still stuck at the power of that taking out the shelter built. It made tin foil out of that corrugate. Look at it.
This was it was our neighbour's
Kia ora, neighbour.
cattle yard thing. It's
Huh?
concrete and it's turned it on its side.
Oh,
So strong.
look at that.
Yeah. Yeah. So the rural plums here have just been absolutely.
Look at the slash. You can see why people get really upset about the forestry and they want it to end. Imagine waking up and this is all in your backyard. Oh, look at the pillow.
I know, I found
Dream.
a beanbag way up the back of our property and the farm. A beanbag was washed
A
up
beanbag.
and a little dolly thing, and it's horrible finding people's possessions. Yeah.
It's really surreal. Oh, and you've been a cat.
Yes, it
The
is. I'm
cat.
Molly.
Molly
Molly's
the cat.
famous. I think Molly's already been in the New Zealand Herald.
Actually,
She apparently so my dad found this cat 5 weeks after the floods, was in our shed, and he said there's a cat asleep on the floor, Paula. So I went down and got it, and oh my gosh, it weighed next to nothing, and took it upstairs and fed it, and it was just bones, poor little thing. And I put a thing on Facebook about it, and lo and behold, I think it was a day and a half or 2 days later, these people said, that's my cat. And beautiful. So they came and got her the next day, and her name's Molly, and she's 17 years old. And Molly I'd love to pick Molly's brains, because Molly, I thought, must have come from up Dartmoor, because we're in Omaranui Road. No, so her mum and dad live in Twyford, and they had to evacuate their home, and so they did, and they left the cats there because they don't travel well, and they went back to their house every day feeding them. But I think it was about 5 days after the initial floods it rained again, and both their cats left, and they never saw Molly again. And somehow Molly travelled here 15 kilometres. I don't get it. And she must have come over the Omahu Bridge. It's just not incredible.
it is an incredible journey for such a little creature.
Yep.
And especially so old.
Yes.
And then to end up in your shed. Thank God she ended up in your shed.
Yeah. So yes, she made me paranoid, because every time, because we were upstairs, and I had to carry her down, and she's not like a dog where you go, come back. And take her to go to the bathroom, and I said to Dad, I can't lose her now because I've advertised that I've got her. How do you keep a cat? But she was just so hungry and
Exhausted.
that she just let me carry her down, and she'd go do her stuff, and then she'd turn around and look at me and go, yep, can you pick me back up again? Let's go.
Oh my God, and you reunited Molly back with her whānau. That must have been so stoked.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, how does this even happen? 15 k's upriver.
So cool.
So cool. Look at all of this. I love those feel good stories.
We've had a couple of little pigs that hang out here, not from way up Dartmoor, but they've got walnuts to eat. They've got onions galore. I don't know if pigs like onions, but they've got kiwi fruit galore to eat, and we have sweet corn at the back as well. So they don't want to go home.
No, maybe they'll just be free range for another 6 months. Oh, look, is that cast iron over there that's floated in? That's under that tree there.
Those are frost pots.
Frost pots.
They sit under they're supposed to be here but just not there.
Okay.
Yeah. So when there's a frost you light those and then you
Oh, that's what they look like.
So mine's not good.
I tell you people, if you're not fit when you start digging in, you will be soon.
Yeah. So yeah, we've still got
I see you've organised everything. You've got big wood piles, pole
massive
piles.
cleanup. Yeah, been collecting stuff because we need to try and reuse what we can because we've just lost so much. That's yeah, so salvage what we can.
Okay.
All our stuff has gone down to the neighbours, some of it.
Floated down
And then some
there.
of the neighbours' stuff has come down to us. No, it's just, wow.
I've seen some properties where big containers have floated in, sheds have floated in, vehicles.
So this looks significantly better than it did because we had some kind people come down and spend a few days here with their big machines trying to help us figure out how to tackle this problem.
Yeah.
And they have taken away some of the bigger logs and things and helped us cut wires and take down the netting because it's a massive, just a health and safety thing. Like some of those wires, the tension on them, you cut the wrong one. Oh.
Look at it all. I can't even imagine how long it would take to sit there and cut all of that netting into 2-metre pieces.
Have a look in there. So that's and there is a lot of big wood that we have to try and figure out how to move.
Oh, the kiwi fruit.
It's like it as far as you can see. And it's like, look at the size of that. How are we supposed to move that?
It's massive.
Yeah. But yeah, the job to get this back to anything that we can actually start again with, we've been quoted $2 million.
Oh, just for this?
Yep, just for this.
Just for the kiwi fruit?
Just for the kiwi fruit.
Holy shit.
And that's people's guess, because we really don't know. I mean, no one's had this before. The mixture of stuff and the amount of, the different industries that need to work together. It's not like you can just bring a big machine in and take everything out. There's wire in here, there's irrigation in here, there's posts everywhere, there's stuff. It's like
Plastic and metals.
Yeah, it's all mixed in. So it's not a just get in and scoop it all together. The wire is a real issue.
Yeah, see it? It's really tight. This one's really tight too. And look, there's the irrigation.
Yeah, and then there's massive, bigger strainer ones. Like you get into this sort of, that's in there. You know, the machines can't work with it. It's so, and then there's even bigger ones that are all the canopy.
God, it's so massive. Look at this. Like the job, the scale of it is just huge. Was it an animal?
Yeah, it's just a bird.
I just sort of heard a horse.
No worries. Yeah. So it's this is a 9.66 hectare block, and most of it has been written off, if not all of it.
This is crazy. Like, never mind the river of silt. Like, this is just a river of slash.
I think people who are near where the stop banks broke have probably worn the brunt of the slash, which is what we've got. And all our shelter belts caught it, and it's filtered down. So luckily the properties past us have got silt, and our apples have mainly got silt, apart from the front paddock that's full of this sort of stuff as well. But yeah, it'd be interesting to have a look at everybody else that's near a stop bank breach and see if they have the same issue with the wood. It's just a whole different ball game.
You know, I've seen many aerial videos and photos, and it's not till you're actually standing on someone's property with them and having to look at what they're faced with that you can actually see how damn overwhelming it is.
Yeah,
like, where do you
everyone
start?
that comes here doesn't have an answer.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have it. It's like, where do you start, and how do you start with no help? It's you know, you don't know what the end game is, because there's no help from the government announced yet. We're still waiting 10 weeks later, you know, so we're concentrating on the things that we can, saving the apples, saving the plums and the kiwi fruit and the grapes. Just have to wait till we have some help, because we can't do it, not on our own. I mean, we don't own a something big enough to pick that thing up.
I'm just like, well,
you know, it's overwhelming. It's just, we just need a whole lot of councils and industry and stuff to come together and just help us.
I'm just like speechless.
Oh no, everyone is who comes down here.
You look at your property, all that hard work and all the slash and where you're supposed to go. And the thing that blows my mind a lot is that you're not allowed to burn it. I mean, you know, if we could just burn it.
Yep, apparently we're supposed to separate it all. The manpower to separate it all is incredible. And it's, where are we supposed to get it from? And how are we supposed to fund it?
I mean, we've got a little humble crew. Humble beginnings. Yeah, we could just start with our hands and gloves,
we'll
bit by bit, day by day.
Yeah, but many hands make light work.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard getting it. If we didn't have the community, we'd feel totally isolated.
Yeah.
Community spirit has been awesome. People like you, River of Salt people, and we've had Task Force Kiwi people, and we just had beautiful people just from Otaki, Wellington, Palmerston, New Plymouth, Taupō. Just turn up on our doorstep and say, can we help? Just amazing. And yeah, it helps you see a future, because you don't hear anything from government at all yet. You just sit and wait and hope.
It's a waiting game. People are really struggling with the waiting game.
Yeah.
I know a guy that's lost a couple of friends to suicide just from stress.
Yes, yeah, because initially people were trying to go, cripes, what do I do, and finding things to do, and now it's hitting them because it's like Groundhog Day. You're doing the same thing 10 weeks later, same thing day in, day out, and are you actually making any headroom? And you're still waiting to hear of some help or relief. So, everyone's running out of cash flow now. You can't keep doing it. We need the government to step in and give us a helping hand.
I've got I've got friends in cities and that are saying, oh, but the government said that Hawke's Bay's okay, that
it's
they
far
don't need
from
the help.
okay.
We've got a long way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, I don't know how long, months to clean this. Months.
I mean, look at it. And this is your property alone. Your mum and dad, it's so overwhelming for them.
So our property alone, my dad has worked out a rough estimate, the amount of silt, and we don't have anywhere near the depths of silt that other places like Pakawhai have and Estale. But on our property, just the silt, forget about the slash, is about 180,000 cubes. That's massive. And that's just our place. It's just, it'll be years of cleaning silt. We've worked it out, the rate that it's taking us to clear our silt will take us a year out of our orchard.
Wow. And then the losses from the orchard. I mean, look at all this kai. So much kai.
Yep, this was ready to be harvested.
That was like one of the first houses I dug in was Ruth and Malcolm down in Pakawhai, and she was growing corn for tallies. And she said it was due to be picked on a Wednesday.
Ours was supposed to be harvested the night before. It was too wet.
And so all those crops were just being wiped out.
Yes. Yeah, this whole, all the way back there, everything was up higher than that.
Because these are your corn crops.
So that was all sweet corn.
And who did you grow for?
Who
were you contracted to?
Dad's share crops all over the place, and he had 118 hectares of squash as well, and he had some here and some in Porongahau. Lost everything. So, but most of our stuff is here, apart from a bit of Dad's squash, but yeah, it's all gone. This was like a lake, so the people over in that house up on the hill is a friend of my son's, and they took a video. And my dad asked me, he was wondering how his sweet corn paddock had fared, and I didn't want to show him the video because this whole valley was just a lake, and I kept it from him for 2 weeks because I didn't want him to know that this was also gone, because it was shocking enough that everything else was looking the way it was. Yeah, so. And it's so deep, so what he's done is plant oats on it last week. Just got someone to sow oats in the hope that it'll break it down and then allow us to take some of the silt off later.
Wow. It's always so disturbing and heartbreaking, gut-wrenching when you see all these wasted crops.
Yeah.
All that hard work, all that food, like this food feeds communities, cities, Oh, look, you can still see how wet it is way over there.
Yep.
Gone. Look at your dad still, planning on moving on and planting the oats.
Thinking ahead,
always.
Planning, yeah. Got to get back up. Well, what do you do?
Yeah. And he's always smiling, I only met him yesterday and every time we see him, a big grin on his face.
Yeah. Wasn't like that initially.
Yeah.
We've had some pretty tough days.
Yeah.
But when people like you come along and we do little bits to put things back to how they were, it gives them hope.
It's good.
Is, fantastic, because they can see a little bit of their life back to what it was.
Yeah.
Because there's no way we can return everything back to what it was. he's 77. And my mum's 74. They don't have time. And I don't think a lot of people in New Zealand realise that a lot of the grower base in Hawke's Bay are elderly people. And if they've got no one to pass it on to or no one that wants to do it in their family, who knows?
Oh, and walnuts, look. Got so much, eh? Right. Oh, hey, so that was another thing I was going to ask you. So the day it happened, you were home,
Yep.
and then there was you and your son Dan, and you'd gone somewhere, and that's when the container and the tree.
Oh, so so we were down at, where we started down at the Apples at my mum and dad's house, and our R.O.S workers were in the house that we went to where the vineyard is, and they came across to my dad at about, I think it was about 5:45, and they said, hey boss, the house is leaking, and Dad said, no, I checked the gutters last night, because we went and checked them because we knew it was going to rain heavy, and they said, no boss, we swam here, and we went, what do you mean you swam here? And walked outside, and there's water pretty much up to the house. It was just unbelievable. So I rushed and got some stuff to chuck in my ute, and I thought I'll take my mum and dad up the hill. We'll all go up the hill and we'll get everyone up there safely. But I looked at the other side of the yard and the water was coming that way as well, so we were trapped. So luckily we had an upstairs piece that my mum and dad had been converting for my son into a little apartment, and we just got everyone up there. So we had eight of our R.O.S workers and 5 of us up there for 2.5 days before we were rescued. But my sister was up here in the kiwi fruit and in the house up here, and she was on her roof. So my son and I came down the orchard to try and get her, because she had 2 dogs with her as well on the roof. So there's no way she could swim with them or anything like that. Yeah, and when we left, it was up to our waist. And we got part way up the road, and then we looked probably only 200 metres from here, and then looked up the road a little bit further, and you could see that there was something wrong in the water. And then we saw trees and a container, a mustard coloured container coming down the road. So
Just randomly floating down the road.
yeah. So Dan and I looked at each other and went, I think we need to try and get back home. So we turned around and the fence that we'd pulled ourselves along had disappeared. That had gone underwater. We just didn't realise how fast it was rising. So that must have been another part of the bank that had burst for that stuff to start coming through. Because there was no slash or anything, no debris in the water when we first came up. It was just water. That was all. Yeah, so we turned around and we had to go back down the middle of the road because it's usually slightly higher. Not that we could see it. It was about chest height by then. And then we got down to the gate. And thankfully outside Mum and Dad's gate, they've got a couple of rocks that were about that high. And we made it onto those and then held onto our sign at the entry to our house, and that saved our lives. I don't know how long we stood there with the water rushing around both sides of us and down our driveway, and we didn't know how to get back in there. And if we didn't make it, we would end up down the road somewhere. So, yeah, we had a shot at it and we made it. Just launched ourselves at the shelter belt on the other side and made it through, and the current wasn't so strong. And then we just went from Apple Row to Apple Row to Apple Row as we had the energy to do it and get back. Yeah, I'm amazed at the amount of people, or that there are not more people that have perished in this, because there are so many people that have stories like us where it was close. It was super close. You know, it could have gone so different. But Kiwis are resilient, eh?
Well, look at you. You and your son. I mean, I hear these stories and I'm just like, wow, like, these survival stories. And, I look at people and when they're telling these stories, You know, some of them going back there can be quite a trigger and they'll cry when they tell the stories, and others, when they look back, it's just overwhelming, like, hell yeah, we survived, we're resilient as.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
You just did it. You didn't hesitate at the time. Dan didn't hesitate to come with me. He was just fantastic. It wasn't until we were standing at the gate going, "Crops, what's the plan now?" that he started to worry. But I felt confident the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, a little bit of self-belief. Grew up on the farm. I can do this.
You got this going. I mean, look
Yeah.
at you, your hearty as.
And yeah, so but oh crikey, I am blessed that I was here because my parents are elderly and I don't know what they would have done. And I think it would have been a different story if it had been earlier in the night, because people would have been in the dark and wouldn't have been able to find ladders to climb on their roofs and things like that. I think they would have woken up in their beds with water surrounding them and then gone heck and panicked and don't know what to do. And yeah, it could have been very, very, very different.
Very different. Thank God you were here. And thank God your beautiful R.O.S guys were there.
They were awesome.
Yeah, and your son, hey,
Yeah.
Dan, been right beside you the whole way.
Yeah, he was cool. And my daughter, she had, her job was, we had 2 little dogs, so her job was take them, look after them.
Oh, good on you, Soph.
It's amazing, eh? Things like this happen and you go, and you always wonder what you would take with you.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't take anything, just the animals and people.
Yeah.
That was all that mattered. Nothing else mattered at all. It's just, you worry about that stuff later. And all we did when we went back was go back and get food that we could from the house, because we didn't know how long we were going to be there. And I had 13 people to feed.
In the little apartment upstairs, and you were there for what? Was it 2 days?
2.5 days. Yeah, no power, no nothing. But my dad had used, when he went over there with the guys, they had a little old barbecue down at the smoko room, so he got them to carry it up. Thank goodness. So I could actually cook things. You know, we had canned food and we had some stuff that I'd had in the freezer that we used, and we had lots of milk from the smoko room, and I made them drink that the first day or two because I didn't know how long we were going to be there, and we didn't have any, you know, we had not a lot of water for 13 people. So it was, yeah, an interesting exercise, and all just sleeping on the floor next to, you know, just wherever.
Wow.
Yeah, but yeah, they were cool, and they yeah, everyone just kind of hung in there, and we patiently waited.
And so what happened? So who came to rescue you?
The Air Force Army boys turned up in a massive helicopter, and took us out, and they were wonderful. They were really lovely.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for sharing your story. It's an incredible story. I'm sure people love hearing what had happened. You know, your experience, your family's experience, and what needs to be done. So come on, people, come join us, dig in.